Joining me now, Nomiki Konst, running for a new office, and this is exciting. You broke the news, Nomiki, yesterday on Aggressive Progressives, but for those that didn't hear, what office are you gonna run for?
I am running to be the next public advocate of New York City. Bum, bum.
All right, I love it, I love it. So let's talk about it just real quick before we get to your agenda, which I care most about. For people who don't know and who didn't see yesterday's program, what does the public advocate do in New York?
So this is fascinating because the public advocate is a fairly new position for New York City, and every single person I ask in New York, those who are in politics, in government, have a completely different interpretation. So I went back to the charter in which it was designed in the late 80s, and the first public advocate was in 1994, and really, the public advocate was there to represent a population of New Yorkers who are being underrepresented in the city council and in New York City government. And it has expanded its roles, or non-roles, to be honest, because they don't have a voting seat in the city council, to not just push the agenda in the city council and in the city and beyond and set the agenda on behalf of the public, but also to hold them accountable. They're also in charge of the New York City media division, which is an unknown. Most people don't know about that, and I think we could talk a lot about that and what I could do for that commission. But they have a fairly significant budget. There's a lot of attention on them. They're the second to the mayor. In case something happened to the mayor, of course, the public advocate would become mayor. I do not want to be mayor. I'll make that very clear right now. But that is the basic role of being the public advocate. It is the check and balance to New York City government, but it is also the advocate for the people, setting the agenda.
So my guess is that you'll run against a lot of career politicians, whereas you have been an investigative reporter for the Young Turks and a talk show host on Sirius Satellite Radio and a progressive activist. So I just want to talk about whether a politician who knows the system, and that's going to be their argument, would make a better public advocate, or someone outside the system who's a progressive would make a better advocate for the people of New York?
Well, I believe that this office really should be independent of politics and political systems. I'm not tethered to a political machine. I'm not tethered to special interests. In fact, I'm completely independent of that. Sure, it would be helpful to know how a bill goes through city council and all the little tricks that can happen along the way, but that's not really the job of the public advocate. The public advocate is there to push city council to write bills, pass bills. In fact, the public advocate can introduce bills. They just can't vote on bills. I think that the role really is to be a check on the system, and you need somebody who is not part of the system that broke the system, meaning you kind of need an outsider to have a fresh perspective on this and also hold the system accountable.
Yeah, look, obviously I have a strong perspective on this, and I worked with Nomi, and she was great. But I think to me, it makes perfect sense that you would have an outsider do this role because it's a check on politicians. So we don't need another politician to do it. We need someone like you who has challenged the Democratic Party from the outside, who then went and was part of the Unity and Reform Commission to try to reform it from the inside. It seems like, I mean, I don't know if you got lucky because Letitia James won her seat and now this seat's going to be open, because it seems like it was tailor-made for your resume. So,
and I think that's really why I'm running for this. I don't want to be mayor. I don't want to be in council. I don't want to be in Congress, really. I saw the opportunity here to talk about the tremendous amount of public conflicts of interest that are happening in New York City government and New York State government, to talk about the injustice that's happening on the ground in every single community. I mean, we have a political machine now in New York, or several political machines that are now, people across the country are learning about the stuff that's happening behind the scenes. Now, if you had a public advocate that went in, and this is probably going to get me in a lot of trouble, and I'm going to have a lot of targets on my back, but if you had somebody that could create a grid of the conflicts of interest and how that affects the budget and how that affects contracts and how that affects relationships within city government and with politicians, exposing that's what I think the public advocate has the ability to do. I am willing to take my investigative skills into this office, into the campaign as well. I'm going to be doing this along the way while I'm campaigning. As I learn about NYCHA, New York City public housing, I'm going to go in and I'm going to investigate. If I learn about conflicts of interest in certain agencies, I'm going to do whatever I can within my ability to investigate in the campaign. And then, of course, with the budget of the New York City government, I hope to amplify that even more so. There's the ability to sue government agencies with outside counsel, but you obviously have a large team that can be put to work really digging and finding where our city government has gone wrong. Because let's not forget, New York City has the worst income inequality in the country at the worst moment in history.
Yeah, so I want to get to your agenda in 1 second, but look, again, I'm not pretending to be neutral here. As you were talking there, Nomi, I thought, oh man, they're in a world of trouble if you get into that seat. So you're going to get a ton of attacks because your specialty is looking into conflicts of interest. So if you're in a role where you could look into the conflicts of interest of politicians who are not doing right by the people, oh boy, buckle up. Okay, yeah. So I want to explain. I want to explain to people that you've already set up a website, NomikiKonst.com, and there's a way to donate to tinyurl.com/donate for Nomi, and that's the number 4, and it's obviously NOMI. So Nomi, if people give to that, does it get multiplied by 6 or not yet? How does that work?
So if you are a New York City resident and you give to my campaign up to the limit, which is around $175, I will get $6 for every dollar that you contribute. That is the matching fund system in New York City. That is for the general election. Of course, when the special election is called, the rules will change a little bit, but we do have matching funds in New York City for New York City residents. It's perfect to level the playing field for small dollar donations, to really make sure that local New Yorkers have a real role in setting the agenda and supporting the people that they want in office. I can also, of course, take donations from outside of New York City, which, if you'd like to donate, I will, if you're not a corporation and you're not a corporate PAC, I will absolutely accept your donations.
Yeah.
But, this is really to ensure that there's a better playing field for all New Yorkers to run for office. And it's a great plan, and I think they should nationalize it.
This is a perfect role for an aggressive progressive, and that's exactly what you are, Nomi. Okay, so now are you considering a $30 an hour minimum wage?
I am.
Wow.
I am. We have an incredible policy team that's working very hard right now, advising me on what's doable and what's not doable and where we can push the agenda, and also how we pay for it, because that's, of course, what everybody is going to ask. But we do have the ability in New York to really push the limit. It is the largest city in the country. It is a city that sets so much in terms of debate and policy agendas globally. I think New York is incredibly unaffordable. I mean, there are almost 1 in 8 New Yorkers. It's about 400,000 New Yorkers live in New York public housing, and it is a mess. I mean, we have mold in the housing. We have a rat situation. There's lead in the water, in the paint. It is unlivable. It's almost the size of this is a population almost the size of Boston right now.
Yeah, that
is the kind of injustice that we're dealing with. So when we're starting there, and we are saying to New Yorkers who really the cost of living here is set for very, very wealthy people, that $15 minimum wage is what you're going to survive on. That's a path to poverty. If you want to survive in New York City, and you have a family, if you want to qualify to purchase an apartment, good luck. But to rent an apartment, you need to make, in some cases, in parts of Manhattan, 80 times 1 month's rent to just qualify for that apartment. So $30 minimum wage is the basic livable wage, and I'm calling for that by the end of 2020 in New York.
Having lived in a lot of different American cities, it is true that New York is, especially Manhattan, is absolutely unlivable unless you're incredibly wealthy. So it's a good point. We have about a minute left, Nomi, but I really want to get to the other one that really jumped out at me. Free subways?
Yes. So we have a subway problem. Like, when I say problem, I mean, there was in Brooklyn at the Atlantic Station, the ceiling collapsed a couple of days ago onto people. That is how decrepit our subway system is. We pay in as taxpayers into the subway system, into the MTA fund. The money is not being allocated to fix the subways, but we pay for it so that we can fix it and fund it. This is a criminal justice issue. The money is there. We have to take a serious look at our budget. And I think that, obviously the governor and the mayor have had some difficulties in taking responsibility for the funding of the subways. But I do think it's important to have another voice out there saying not only should we be fixing our subways, but we should be making it free for New Yorkers. I mean, maybe tourists can pay a different price, but New Yorkers, this is a criminal justice issue as well. So, you shouldn't have to choose between your Metro card and a meal. $2.75 for a swipe on a Metro card, and you have kids jumping turnstiles and getting written up, and then suddenly they're in Rikers and their lives are ruined. This is an incredible problem in New York. The subway epidemic is hitting working people and people in poverty the most. If you're a mother and you live in an outer borough and you're a single mother and you have to pay for childcare and you have to make it into work and you're late, that could cost you an hour's wage. That could cost you your job. This is the lifeline of New York, and we need to fix it.
Yeah, it's amazing what happens when you look at something from the public's perspective rather than the powerful perspective. The people in power go, oh, no, we can't do any of these things. But as you lay it out there, it seems like that would be exactly what a public advocate would at least fight for. So my guess is that the Young Turks audience and that progressives across the country are going to be awfully excited about this race. So NomikiKonst.com, everybody please check it out. We'll obviously have the links down below if you're watching later on YouTube or Facebook. Nomi, great to have you on the air again and fighting for progressives again.
Thank you so much, Cenk, and thank you to the whole TYT family, always.
On the go? Don't worry, we got you covered. You can still listen to TYT at our new podcast network. Find us on Apple Podcasts, the Google Play Store, or at tyt.com/podcast.